In 2014, a series of 2 videos made by a previously unknown content creator suddenly started going viral. And shortly afterwards, that said YouTuber started his channel back up after a long hiatus. And we were thus introduced to GradeA Underachiever, a comedic station which set out to discuss minor qualms that arrive to modern, first-world life with an absurd, overreactive tone and voice. And for a while, GradeA was setting himself out to be a surprisingly successful long-time character created for the site. But recently, many people, including me, have come to a very horrifying and disturbing realization. Guys, we may have fucked up. I don't think that this guy is a character. We may have just spent the last 2 years taking an actual egotistical, narcissistic crazy person and making him an unironic voice of reason on this website.
Why did we do this? No one knows!
Of all the channels on this site, you'd understand why I would presume that this was another parody persona, right? Like Filthy Frank or even the Nostalgia Critic to some extent. When you watch these guys being assholes or just being bad at arguing, it's only mostly amusing because we know that it's an exaggeration. It's not real, it's a joke. Like Andy Kaufman in the wrestling match. When they step out of that persona or talk about a topic that's serious, you expect a different output than their regular stuff. And here was someone who presented himself as a cartoon stick figure. Someone who seemed to try and represent all real-world events through some sort of mini-universe. Just by the fact that this is how we've always known him, it's near impossible to think that this guy would exist in the real world. We've all kept this image of GradeA actually being a little stick figure guy living in a white void populated by other stick figures. With Keemstar, everyone's always known that he's kept up an active spear since before the beginning, so controversies rising up outside of his mainstream network have always been expected. But you wouldn't expect the same thing to be true for Grade, because it's hard to imagine him in a context where he would even exist outside of his show. And he does. Oh, does he? So in order to better show off the point I'm trying to make here, I'm going to go ahead and use Andere's real head for the rest of the video instead of that peanut-shaped thing. I'm also going to add a beard just because I imagine that's how he looks by this point. Think through all the people you've ever communicated with in your life, and try and find the one who most matches Andere in his style of communicating in these videos. You're looking for someone who A. thinks that shouting louder means that he's winning, B. never seems to have any real backing to his arguments other than simple statements, C. often is unable to accept that certain topics may have more nuance than he is giving them credit for, D. won't let you finish a single statement because he keeps interrupting you with more angry shouting and random statements that he refuses to explain. E. puts his own opinion on a high pedestal and constantly talks about the fact that he was right in the past. And F. constantly tries to undermine your right to have an opinion in an aggressive attempt to override any point that you brought up against him. If you're like me, you clearly recall dozens of people in your life who have been like this, and you might even think back to a time when you took part in conversations in the same way, probably when you were 16 and made cringy Doctor Who videos. And most of us are coming to one singular thought about that guy. Wow. That dude was a fucking dick. If you don't understand what I'm talking about and you've never met anyone like this, then congratulations, you are that guy. If someone having an opinion not like yours makes you convulse in anger or send you into a deep rage planning on what quick zinger to throw out to end the conversation then and there to make you the universal winner, or if someone bringing up a good point sends you into Terminator scanning mode trying to find that one attack point where you can swipe in and destroy this person's reputation, please stop and try to act like an adult for once in your life. The most annoying tactics used by the AndereBot 9000 is the attempt to disarm the other's right to an opinion instead of actually having to counter anything that they've said. I see this everywhere, and I mean everywhere, and it's the most pansy move that you can possibly take in any situation. To further enunciate what I'm talking about, I'm going to revisit the classic humongous meme. What happened in this situation, according to what I've been able to piece together, is that a group of activists were protesting a new police station in a town when a figure came in and gave an interview to the media discussing how he supported the move because the officers helped to get his daughter off the streets. Of course, a pretty good point to raise up, and the group of activists could have tried to either combat it or incorporate it into their message to make it seem more nuanced. For instance, they could have said, it's not about the cops being good or not, it's about a waste of resources. But instead, they attempted to simply delete the argument and undercut his message by searching for a way to splice away at the man's right to have an opinion.
And this is the person who just got interviewed as a pro-bunker person of colour. And then you speak to me in a sexually harassing manner. How dare you? How dare you?
Yes, how dare you try to say that the police help people when you're just a grubbly misogynist? You don't have the right to make that statement, or to have opinions in general. I use this example because it's one where 99% of people are going to agree that this person is completely insane and is using terrible argument skills. And it's really helpful when people I disagree with use this style of arguing because it proves how truly insecure they are. But the practice doesn't start being annoying just when it's someone I disagree with. I can totally like you, agree with your stances, completely agree with everything that you've said and are saying, but if you're using this kind of argument where you're trying to disarm the other side's right to an opinion instead of actually talking about what they said, well then you're a pussy. Remember that thing that happened earlier this year where a bunch of predominant YouTubers made extremely vague YouTube is changing vlogs, where they attempted to discuss moments of distress that they find in the current market without actually exploring what they were trying to get across? Well, I thought those videos were stupid and boring, and when I heard that GradeA is going to pick them apart, I was so excited. It's hard to imagine now, but it was once joked that H3H3, I Hate Everything, and GradeA were all the police force of bad channels, since they all had a history of making fun of tacky trends. But this was the video where people started to realize that once you really put any thought into GradeA's videos, they really don't amount to many points. I remember sitting through this entire thing, eagerly anticipating the part where he would have something smart to say, where he would bring up some new points, or analyze the videos, or at least show significant clips from them. But this, it didn't happen. Instead, Andere goes through each case and attempts to explain why each of these YouTubers are voices that shouldn't be listened to. Apparently, Markiplier makes gaming content, and that's easy content, and he has dyed hair, and he has a loose style of voicing, and he has a nickname, so he isn't allowed to have an opinion on YouTube. PewDiePie, apparently, also isn't allowed to have an opinion on YouTube because he's the #1 subscribed YouTuber, and Fred used to be the #1 subscribed YouTuber, and no one likes Fred, right? And then he tops it all off in a patched-on section where he admits that the video is flawed, and that he took extra time to extend the Matthew Santora section to include the fact that he's stolen top 10 lists. Thus, he's a fraud, and no one should listen to him. That's the one that's stuck around the longest, and it's the one that makes the most sense to bring up. But it's still annoying to mention it in a video that isn't about that thing. This is some high school level drama here, guys. As I said, one of the backing problems with GradeA is that behind the scenes and on social media, he seems to be exactly like the person that he presents himself to be in his videos. When the YouTube version of GradeA talks about how he's fixed YouTube single-handedly and how he's on a high standard for opinions, even people who don't think that he's a character think that he's just trolling. But then you go to his social media and you're like, oh, he's not.
The drama video that I did make 2 months ago got the CEO of YouTube, Susan Wojcicki, to tweet at us and start listening to us about how to make YouTube better.
Yes, GradeA, you and you alone, with hashtag Make YouTube Great Again, made YouTube better. It's all fine now.
GradeA fixed it. Thanks, GradeA. Glad that nothing bad happens anymore on YouTube.
Oh yes, and you've started so many big social trends, GradeA. Good job! And how bold and beautiful of you to not do a video on H3 versus Leafview when everyone else was. Oh, you avoid drama so much, you actually care about your content. The guy keeps open friendships with deeply controversial figures and refuses to talk about them until suddenly everyone else is, and then he has to turn on them. But of course he goes after any of his fans that have even the slightest problems with his channel, even if they're extremely constructive, because he doesn't care about that stuff. A quote from the scholar of our time. "I'll fucking love anyone who watches my videos, man. But if someone's gonna watch my videos and complain, I don't like you at all. I don't value you in any way. I just want you to unsubscribe and fuck off." Sorry, that was more of like a Liverpool thing. I don't know, like a wide range of voices. This was one of the many offhand Reddit comments, now deleted of course, which inspired an entire thread dedicated to discussing people's recent problems with Grade. And Grade fought tooth and nail to make sure that each and one of these comments was completely taken care of by having them deleted. Yes, he contacted a Reddit moderator and asked if she would delete the entire thread, and when she said no and went public with his demands, Grade called her out in a Twitch stream.
Go read that comment. Go tell that fucking whore that's a mod on my fucking subreddit to link you to what I said to delete.
Fucking brilliant, man! You really came out on top on that one, I think. Yeah. Just send your horde of 12-year-old fans to send threats through personal messages to a 16-year-old Reddit moderator until she kneels down and apologizes. You're a fucking YouTube champion, aren't you? Keep it up, Grade. With your help, we can make YouTube great again! And honestly, that's just the tip of Antarctica, man. I really suggest going into this yourself. Don't presume anything, do your own research. The amount of terrible events that Grade has done or led in the past 6 months rivals what Keemstar has done in the past 10 years. And much like how seeing the clips of Keemstar loudly shouting racist slurs or bullying innocent old men into fetal positions can kind of ruin any slight appeal that he might have once had, finding out that Grade treats his fans like specks of dirt for even daring to have a different brainwave than him makes you realize that we have elected a very dangerous and sociopathic individual into a seat of great power entirely as a funny gag. Insert political joke here.